I'm staring at this cycle maker poster on my wall, and I just wish, why couldn't it be easy? Why couldn't it just be as simple as it is to make them? It happens with such ease. Why can't it be easy to break them? Why can't the process be so easy? And I'm thinking about all these things that people were doing, these things that were becoming so popular, and journaling and gratitude and vision boards. And at the time, there was a lot of conversation about rewriting your story. And so I thought maybe I should go back into my childhood and rewrite my story like those things never happened. And I wondered if that would work. And I started thinking about all of these things together that people were doing. And I just realized, hang on a minute, all of these things, it doesn't matter what they are individually, collectively, they're all the same thing. They're different forms of expression. And expression was the end of how a cycle is made. The last step for the formation of a cycle is expression. That's when things become physical. That sort of triggered a thought, and I thought to myself, what would happen if I drew the cycle maker in reverse? And so with that in mind, I grabbed a piece of paper, and I didn't even get to finish it. So going backwards, it's expression, integration, knowledge, and experience. I didn't even get to finish the word knowledge. I just wrote no, and I stopped and I realized, oh my God, that's the answer. And it was in front of me for years. Couldn't believe it. And then thinking back into the books that were massive, like The Secret, that's exactly what it was doing. To be able to break the cycle, you start with different forms of expression. And that might be, I remember it was saying in the book, if you wanted a relationship and you were not in one, to live like you're in a relationship. So that physical expression may be separating your closet to have half of it empty, as if somebody else was going to come and fill that space. Sleeping on one side of the bed. If you wanted a specific car, go and test drive it so you get the experience, that feeling of being in it, and you can make that your own. And then you use that for visualization and meditation. And then I realized when you keep doing things like this for expression, when you create that vision board, when you write those journal entries as if they're in the future, what you're actually doing is starting to integrate that experience into your life. You're living like it's happening now. And that's what the expression serves to do. So that first phase to break a cycle is you creating multiple forms of expression for the cycle being broken. You're not focusing on the cycle itself that you're stuck in. You're projecting into the future, but you're living like it's happening now. And so what those forms of expression serve to do is take you out of the past cycle that you've been stuck in, even though in the present moment it's still part of your experience. You're trying to bring the experience of that new cycle from the future into the present. So you might have vision boards and visualize the positive experience transforming your life. And you might do things and say things and sing things and watch things. Everything you do is expressing the future that you're trying to bring into the present. And what that does is helps you start to integrate aspects of that future into your current life. And so through that process of integration, you start to create new mental and emotional cycles. Not this is how it is and I can't do this and I feel this. It's I can feel this. I can think this. Starting to make it a reality. And then you get into the phase of knowledge. And knowledge and integration kind of works hand in hand. Whereas when cycles are usually made, they're usually made based in fear. And fear-based cycles are kind of fast-tracked because that experience can rapidly turn into knowledge. It's integrated into that fear space really quickly, really easily, and it's expressed for a long, long time. But because you're reversing that process and it's done through love and not through fear, it takes a little bit more work to go through the integration phase, and the knowledge phase is actually to help you do that. So you've integrated that possibility into your mind and body, but you're also starting to integrate knowledge from other different places. And the beauty of this technologically connected world that we have is there are so many different sources of information. So if you're trying to start a new cycle, so if we're going to the drawing belief that you had about yourself and you're wanting to break that cycle and create a new one, it's not as simple as like rewriting a story by deleting it and rewriting a new one. You can't just replace a cycle with a new one and it erases the past. It doesn't work that way. But you need to start to embrace and embody that new cycle coming into your life so that the old one slowly fades away. You give more power and momentum to the new cycle through the knowledge. So you might listen to podcasts about drawing and artistry and how everybody's an artist, and you read quotes about everybody embracing art and art imitates life and things like that. You might watch interviews, you might watch documentaries, you might watch YouTube videos and start to practice embodying that knowledge but having that experience. And so when you start to pull information from different sources, that feeds your mind into believing that new possibility, because you need to formulate a new belief. So the purpose of the knowledge phase is to feed yourself as much information as possible about your new cycle to help you integrate that information and bring that experience into your life. The actual process of breaking a cycle and creating that new one, the experience of it happening naturally on its own is the last thing you get. But the work that you do through expression, integration, and knowledge helps get you there. And expression isn't just finished at the start and then you go into integration. It's a continuous process. So what I found particularly helpful when I was breaking my own cycles, particularly the childhood ones, was the journal writing side of things. So I used to write journal entries about the new cycle with my experience with my mom and our relationship improving, and I kind of created journal entries talking about the day we spent together, and it was a day that had never happened, and at the time a part of me still had that doubt that it never would. So I went crazy with that thought. Oh, we went overseas together in that journal entry. We went to Vietnam. And so I wrote the story, the journal entry, like it just happened. And I just come back from this overseas trip with my mum and how much we bonded and shared, and, you know, how over dinner one night we had a conversation about the past and apologies and hugs and tears and all the love was just shared. And how I felt writing that journal entry, that expression gave me the emotion and it gave me the desire, the mental desire to make that experience my reality. And it doesn't matter if we never went overseas together. We can do lunches and things now. This is something that has never ever happened in my entire history with my mother. But the journal entries was always what I went back to. Because in the process of breaking a cycle, you will always go back, just like it's easier to keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again. It's why when you're in the relationship that you know you shouldn't be in and you want to get out of, but you just keep doing what's easy, what's familiar, because it takes no effort from you to repeat the cycles that you've been repeating your whole life. To form a new one, that takes effort and you will fail. And that's part of the process. It's in the failure that you actually learn. I had to face the doubts that I had, not only about myself, but my abilities to make these things my reality. Those things come up. That's why you fall back. And when you do that, you learn about yourself, and you have to confront those parts. That's the work you need to do. But I didn't just break cycles in relationships and heal things from my past. There were physical cycles that needed to be broken too, like my cigarette addiction that had been going since I was 12. And I'd broken it once for 5 years. So I knew I could do it. And most people with addictions will know that they can do it, but it's that application to see it through. And so what I found when I was breaking physical cycles, we always see those things as the problem. If you're a drinker or a smoker or a massive gambler, online shopper, or you've got like social media addictions, shopping addictions, all those sorts of things, it doesn't matter what the physical cycle is. Most people see those things as the problem in their lives and they try to fix that problem only. When you focus only on breaking a physical cycle, you're not actually treating the problem, you're treating the symptom. It's like when you're training for a marathon. You don't just train for that last 10 seconds before you cross the finish line and act like you're an Olympian and, breaking that ribbon across the finish line. If you're just going to practice that, what chance do you have of actually completing the race? You need to be practicing your warm-ups. You need to be training for that experience, and you need to keep doing it over and over again. And you're not always going to finish. You're going to fall. You're going to get tired. You're going to have a break. You're just not going to feel like you're at your best, but you have to keep going. And breaking a cycle is just like that. And when you focus purely on the physical cycle alone, you're doing yourself an injustice in the long run, because you might stop that physical act, that problem in your life, but mentally and emotionally, the things that force you into that physical expression, they haven't been dealt with at all. So when those things keep coming up, when you've had this go-to, this solution in your mind to cope with those things for however long, and then you just fix that coping situation and replace it with something else, long term, that doesn't work out, which is why so many people go back. So when I started focusing on breaking that physical cycle of smoking, what I noticed was the physicality of it didn't need to be dealt with. The mental and emotional side did. And so when I started breaking that cycle and looking at the beliefs that were created from the mental and emotional cycles, I had these crazy ass beliefs about smoking. In my head, I thought, it helps me problem solve. When I've got something going on in my life, that gives me time for reflection. And that helps me figure out what I'm going to do the next day. Or when I was a teacher, it would help me figure out what my next lesson's going to be. It didn't do shit. But that's what I was telling myself. And then that feeling of a break and that feeling of relief and that downtime that it gave me, that's the euphoria, that's the happiness that it gave me. It didn't make me happy to smoke. And considering I was like the fitness teacher and the yoga teacher and running around with the kids all the time, it was almost unfathomable that someone like me could be doing something like that when everything that I displayed was the opposite of doing something like that. And so when I was focusing on breaking the mental and emotional cycles, it was the hard part. Quitting smoking afterwards was a breeze. But that hard work was breaking the mental and emotional cycles. And when you're actually going through the expression phase, it's great, it's easy, it's fun. You can say the things, you can do the things that make that new cycle that you're bringing into your life seem more desirable. You want to create that insatiable desire, because eventually you're going to have to do the work. And so when the integration and the knowledge phase come, that's where I started to face it all, to face these crazy beliefs that I had about smoking. And they're quite ridiculous, but that enabled me to feel like I was doing the right thing for myself at the time. That was the excuse that I made to make it okay, that I was doing something that I really didn't agree with me doing. And so when it came to knowledge and integration, I was able to use things like hypnotherapy and meditation and breathing and breath work to be able to create a new cycle. And so the experience of being a non-smoker became real easy. And that doesn't mean I don't have moments where I fail, but I think about the mental and emotional cycles that got me to that physical expression. I don't just think, oh, I had a cigarette or vaped or whatever. So that's the key, is understanding that when you make those mistakes and go back, it's not the end of the world. But that's the point where you need to get real introspective and reflective with this perspective of the web of life and understand the big picture of what you're doing and why. And that's where you get the power to break it. So that's the web of life philosophy in a nutshell. That's the 8 fundamental elements, the 4 strands, the 3 spheres, and how cycles are made and how cycles are broken. So thanks for being here with me for this ebb. New ones will come out for you every other Thursday. If you're keen to get your hands on a copy of the book, just head to my website, www.weboflife.au. And while you're there, you can download your free PDF of the complete Web of Life philosophy. All the links are included in the show notes. Now, if you'd like to stay up to date in the world of Ali Ammo, follow me on socials. Episode 1,